All right. So I would like to welcome everybody back to the Sour Mash series. This is actually week 3. But first things first, welcome to Stillworks and Brewing. My name is Randy, and this is a channel that's all about home distillation and brewing. Okay, so one thing is, what are we going to try to accomplish with this? I've had a lot of people ask me about a sour mash, and this has to be one of the simplest. It's very similar to the Uncle Jesse Simper sour mash recipe. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is get into the sour mash world. That's one I really haven't been in that way very much. So I wanted to get into that, and I think a lot of people will learn as I'm learning. Okay, and will I make mistakes? Of course I will. All right, so let's get a brief recap. So let me stop. So let me give you a brief recap of what we've done so far. In week 1, we did our starter mash. Okay, because we haven't had anything that's sour yet. That was a starter. So basically, it was just a starter mash or a sweet mash or whatever you want to call it. Week 2, we did the week 2. Where is it? Week 2. What we did was the first distillation, which was a stripping run, and the second fermentation. Okay. So now we are at week 3, which will be the second distillation and the third fermentation, and that's where we're at now. So we're going to get started on that, and it will look very similar to the last one, but a little bit different because remember we did a stripping run. So in the still, we're going to add all that stripping run in and everything else, and the second fermentation in there, and then we're going to run that more like the typical way we run our still. Okay, so with all that being said, and one thing I did do is I did take a sample of the first parts of the stripping run just as a baseline for tasting. I just took a half pint, and we're going to keep that at the tasting at the very end when we compare everything up. Okay, now let's get started. All right. So what's going on right now? We're siphoning off the liquid from the fermenter, and you can see the corn all left behind. Okay, it's all getting siphoned into the still pot. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this siphon all out. We'll get as much liquid out as we can, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay. So we'll see in a little bit. So I got everything siphoned off, got all my corn bed down here in the bottom, and it looks kind of icky. Okay. One thing I did learn from the first generation was I stripped off 3 pounds of corn, added 3 pounds of corn. Yes, wet corn weighs more than dry corn, so I'm actually gaining in corn. That's not necessarily a bad thing, except for my corn bed in the bottom is building. So what I end up doing is I'll take about half this corn out, and then whatever I take out, I'll put back. Makes a lot more sense to me. So I'll probably just take this container out, and then I'll add that container back in. Hey, we all learn, right? So let me get off. And see, it's brown corn, and underneath is nice yellow corn. So I'm going to take this container off. I think I'm going to do this. I think what I'm going to do, I think it'd be easier with this cup. So we'll take one container off. I mean, there's nice bright yellow corn underneath that brown corn. I think what I'm gonna stop at 3/4 of this container. But that's nice looking corn down there. Okay. So what I did is I stopped at 3/4, and that's what the corn I will add back in here in the next step. Okay, or not the next step, but in a little while. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to add in some 75-degree water back in here so the yeast that is still alive in here stays nice and healthy. So let me add 3 gallons in here and then I'll be right back. Okay, so what I ended up doing is I ended up adding back about 5 gallons of 75-degree water. And what that's going to do is, once I add in 1 gallon of distillage out of the still, that should be just a hair over 6 gallons of liquid for the next one. And that's what I usually use is 6 gallons. You know, I make 6-gallon mashes. So, like I said, I added about almost 5 gallons of 75-degree water, and so once I add in the gallon of distillage, that should give me the right amount. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a lid on this, and we'll set this aside, and we're gonna move back to the still now, okay? So we'll be back. All right, so I got my still sitting here, so we're gonna add in the stripping run. And I did save a pint of this for tasting purposes and comparing. Okay? All right. Let me get my still stacked out, and then we're gonna get this puppy started, okay? This is good. All right. So we'll be back in a little while. Okay, so what's going on? Well, the still heated up. We're taking off our 4 shots at heads, and right about now, I mean, it smells nice and clean. Tasting good. All right, so we got just a shade less than 12 ounces. I think we're going to convert over to our first jar here. If you notice, it's a nice broken stream. So it looks like we're going to be here for a while. And it's going to be good. That is tasty though. All right. Okay, so let's collect for a while, then we'll be back. Okay, just to give you an update where I'm at, I just changed another jar. So far what we got is 3.5 quarts, and it's crystal clear and looking good. Let's see what we're coming off the spout at. And we are coming off at 55%. So we got a little bit yet to go. 55%. I usually like to collect down to about 40% or 80 proof, and that's usually where I call it quits. Hey, let's give it a taste, see what it's tasting like. Ooh. Ah. Got a nice corn taste to it. I was afraid it was going to have a sugary taste like the sugar, like a sugar shine, but it don't. Kind of tastes a little bit on the sweet side. I don't know why, but it does. Good corn taste. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. When it's all dead and said for, I think I might age some of it, and I think I'm going to leave some of it just clear. Because, I can make good stuff out of that. You know me, I like to make different drinks. Different moonshines and such. Okay, so I think we'll be here a little while longer. And then we'll be ready to go into the next step. All right, so hey, it's working good. We'll see you in a little while. So coming off the spout is 40%. So I shut it down. So what we're going to get ready to do is move on to the next step. All right, so probably I'll end up putting the lid on this so I don't spill it. I mean, it smells good and it tastes fantastic. So let me put a lid on this. All right, that goes down there. Okay, so what's next? Well, next is, let me break the still down, and I gotta get to the stillage. Yeah, what's left over in the still pot, and I need a gallon of that to mix with the sugar, and then that all gets mixed in with the fresh corn that I'm gonna put in here and the old corn. And we'll get ready to do this process again. So, let me get the still broke down, and then I'll stop back, and we'll come on to the next step, okay? Okay, just like before, I collected a gallon and a gallon and a quarter of the back set from the still, or stillage, back set. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna mix in the 8 pounds of sugar into that nice hot liquid, and that should melt it all. You just stir it and pour. Okay, there's one. Pretty much melted right away. How come all these sugar things always leak? All right, pour the next one in. And just stir that till it all melts. Okay, that's all melted. Okay, so what I do next is I just take an ice block. I keep them in the freezer. I'm gonna just put it in here and try to get this temperature down, because I don't want to put it into the fermenter. Like 90 degrees would be, even 100 would be perfect. And then I'll be ready. Some yeast is still alive in here, but I will still add another tablespoon of fresh yeast just because I want to. Okay, so let's let this cool down, and then wait a minute, I got one other thing to do. Let me swing you over here. Okay. I measured out the corn. A little bit different than I did last time. I did not weigh it. I just used the volume. It should be close. I just want to mix this into fresh corn into the other. I'm gonna give it a nice stir. Put a little oxygen in there, and I'll stir it right before. Okay. So now, let me let that cool down. And then we're going to add it in here, and then we'll be ready to put it in the fermentation room. And another week, we'll have another batch to go. But I'll have to say, ain't that pretty? It is. Crystal clear from the very beginning to the very end. So I'm very happy with that. I'll make sure I mark that. I'm going to call it Generation 2. First generation really ain't a generation but I'm going to call it Gen 1. That was mainly just a sugar wash, okay? But let's call it Gen 1 just so we can keep it straight. And we got a couple more to go. Okay, so let me let this happen and I'll be back. Okay, I moved fermenter into my fermentation room. It starts getting heavy. So I got my sugar and my back set. We'll mix that in. It was already starting to work a little bit, but I'm gonna add just a little bit of fresh yeast, about a tablespoon. About a tablespoon just to help it out, just in case. And then we'll put a lid on it. That's just a loose fitting lid, so it won't build any pressure. And then, okay, so that's about done. We're about done with week 3 of our sour mash, which is named Distilling the Second Wash and starting the 3rd fermentation. Okay, so I guess we'll see you back here next week and we get to do it all over again. Next time we won't have a starter or we won't have I'm having a brain fart. Oh, we won't have the strip and run to add to the still, so it will go a little bit faster. But what am I tasting so far? It tastes great. So I'm looking forward to combining all that together, and we'll come up. And I think what I'll end up doing, like I think I said it before, is I'm gonna age half and half I won't age. So we'll get to that. Okay, so I guess the last thing I got to say is, hey, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time here on Stillworks and Brewing. Cheers, everybody.